Okay, welcome to the first episode of Ego versus Ego. This is something that we've talked about many of years to talk about this whole concept of a father and a son having a conversation. I think you would agree that this is something that it's not being something not being done right now, where you have a father and a son that's having conversation about life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the whole struggles from being a man to a child. What's your thought process?
Definitely a lot of trials and tribulations to talk about. It's definitely unique, but something that need to be done. I think being vulnerable in today's world is a lost art, so I'm very open to it and ready to get to it.
Okay, this conversation is going to be it's going to be raw. It's going to be real. It's something that's needed. I know for myself, me being talked about this many times from being from 8 Mile Rock. I can tell you the best things about 8 Mile Rock is Ego Ferguson, Buddy Hill, and
How you put
Johnny
your name?
Jones, and basically, being an immigrant in this country, and I've been over here since 1983. I came in this country in 1983, and what's weird about this whole process is I've been here from 83 to current. I've been married 4 times, and I still got a deportation order. so
Four,
here's
four
a
attempts and no bucket. That's what
four
that
attempts,
sound
no
like.
bucket. Here's an individual straight from 8 Mile Rock to Bahamas. I've been married 4 times. I had you. I have 3 other kids. One non biological, and 3 biological kids. Came to this country with pretty much nothing, just nothing but a dream. I had a dream of playing football in the NFL or something like this, or being some kind of corporate lawyer. And I got here, started chasing women, and that shit just went left. But I'm thankful that I was able to go to college. I've been in the arena as far as logistics management. I lived in like 14 different states. 14 different states. Raised you, got you from where you at, from Mims, Florida, to the NFL, got Jeremy to the NFL. And, that's my whole story. Talk to me. Who are you?
Yeah, shit. How can my life not be interesting after hearing all that? It's the way you start. Most people, when they ask who you are, they really want to know what you do. Who I am, I'm a purposely driven man that's trying to leave my impact on my family and hopefully it flood to the masses. But most people want to know who you are. So I'm a former a former NFL player. Used to play for Chicago Bears. Spent some time with LSU, and I'm just a man trying to get it. To be honest, I think that's the biggest thing, man. I'm taking it one day at a time and trying to enjoy each footstep I take with the most gratitude.
Excellent, excellent. And I think again, we going back into the whole reason why we having this conversation is to basically have an open dialogue. Something that I don't think is being done by a lot of fathers out there. Number one, especially in this black and brown community, you don't have too many fathers in the house to begin with. And I was a single parent. Um, and to have an open dialogue about the origin of this whole thing. You know, like I sit back and I look at my life and you start talking about the blueprint. The blueprint. My dad left. I left the Bahamas. My dad left when I was 7, 8 years old, and I never really had a father figure in the house who I could connect with. So even when I was taking you through the whole process, raising you was like I didn't have a father figure there to say, "Hey, this is how you do this. This is how you do this, and this is how you do it." So basically, I was just running off to just it came to me. I dealt with this shit, and I just moved on. You know what I mean? I could tell you one thing. I had growing up in 8 Mile Rock. I had my next door neighbor, and I think I told you about this, Darren and all that. There was a Junior Grant. He was a big time drug dealer, and so every day I would get up literally from the crack of dawn, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I would get up, take a shower, and I'm over that house. Because at least I was able to see a father, Darren's dad, right, Junior there. The mother, she worked for Eastern Airlines. The sisters, the brothers, they had food in the refrigerator. You know what I'm saying?
You was able to see stability.
They had air conditioning. In the Bahamas, you had to open the windows. There was no air conditioning. They had air conditioning. So the first thing in the morning, I get up and I slide over there. You know what I'm saying? I'm chilling all day. So whenever they go fishing, they had boats. They go fishing, camping. I was there. So I was almost like an extended part of the family. So when you start talking about raising a child, raising you, I had Junior Grant, I had Llewellyn, Uncle Llewellyn. So I can look at those individuals, because I didn't have a dad there. So I would look at different individuals and say, okay, when a situation come up, how do I react to this? How do I do this? And I would resort to, I would say, muscle memory or whatever memory is. How would Junior Grant do this? How would Llewellyn do this? How would this person do this? Reach out to Judy, who has been a rock. Because, I came to the United States at what? I came over here when I was in the 7th grade. So think about this. Coming from the Bahamas in the 7th grade, I left the Bahamas, 8 Mile Rock, to come to the United States to play football. I moved in with my uncle. Moving to my uncle at 7th grade, and Mommy was pretty much supporting him and us from the Bahamas. So coming over there, and he really didn't want us there, but the fact that Mommy was paying for all this shit. So yeah, I'm good to be there. And soon as Mommy got sick when I was in about the 9th grade, she got sick, and she started slowing down with the support, but she always had a house. She had a duplex here in Miami. So she had a duplex, and the duplex was supposed to support me and Georgie. Georgie came first.
How many of y'all total was it in the house?
Shit, Daddy had 39 kids.
Good God almighty.
39 kids.
I could have had about 3 football teams over there.
So he had 39 kids. Out of the 39 kids, we had 8 in our house. The next door neighbor, I remember growing up in 8 Mile Rock, the next door neighbor had about, 3 or 4 kids from my dad. My dad was that guy. He was that man right there. So, he had money, he had power. So that's the memories I remember of him. But coming over to the United States, you figure coming from my dad, who is a Bahamian, my mother, who is a Haitian, and the stereotypes of Haitians in the Bahamas was not positive back in those days. So you had a stigma that a Haitian mother, a Bahamian dad. So those are the dynamics that we had to fight, where you don't want to be labeled as a Haitian, but yet you are a Bahamian. So you had a twix that we had to fall around. And with me, I always wanted the best. Whether it be the best clothes, the best food, the best women, I always wanted. I always wanted.
A woman's a common theme in your life.
I believe that. I remember Barry. I was like beautiful women. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the best. Always one of the best. Always one of the best.
Like even when you talk about like Bahamian and half Haitian, it's almost like sound to me almost like when I see mixed kids in today's world grow up, essentially, not being able to fit on the left or the right side, so you kind of in the middle during the process, essentially.
Yeah, it was literally in the Bahamas. You just want to be known as a Bahamian.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Then I came to the United States in the 8th grade. Well, coming here in the 8th grade, it was like now you in America and you have a heavy accent and a heavy dialect. So they put you all in the boat. You Haitian, you foreigner, and they treat you all like shit anyway. So I'm trying to figure out. Then now hold up. We never discussed the name, Ego.
Shit, I know. I experienced my own
We
stories.
never talk about the name Ego. But the name Ego, that brings additional attention. That's something that's totally different. So now you talking about Lego my ego, this, that. So now I had two choices. How do you embrace the name? How do you deal with everybody fucking with you about your name, where you from, you a Haitian, you this, you that? And I was the type of person that's like, damn, I was like, how the fuck do I deal with this shit? And so I really embraced the name Ego, and I wanted to be different. I like coming from the Bahamas, we had from an educational standpoint, I think I was above average from
Oh, that boy modest right now.
I'm
with
being
the cameras on. Above average.
I think I was above average. Now hold on now. I was above average in the Bahamas. So we took like 13 to 16 classes. Coming to the US, 13 to 16 classes in a year span, right? Now you come to the US and you only taking 6 classes, and one of those classes being PE. I only have to study for 5 classes. I'm like, fuck, I'm a genius over here. so of course, so now I'm in the US system. I'm like, damn, this is easy right here. So they consider me a genius over here. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I love this shit right here. But one thing I realized right away when I came to the US, I'm like, okay, I speak a foreign language. I'm different. You know what I'm saying? I love my women. So how do I get to the girls? That's my whole thought process. Kid you not, all bullshit aside. I said, okay, how do I get there? And I realized that shit, I wasn't tall enough to play basketball.
We know that.
I said I'd get shot though. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get football. And it's like getting that damn jacket. If you get a football jacket, oh my goodness, you get the women. So every year I came in and I balled out. So you're talking about football career started in the 8th grade. And I was just fighting for that jacket. So I know if I get that jacket, I'm going to get me a nice girlfriend that year. So, because the girls always want to wear a jacket. So I had to give me my jacket. And I kid you not, I played for Edison for 4 years at Edison. 4 years, every year. Now, Edison was one of the top programs in the country.
Here we go.
We talked about this shit.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot.
Edison was the top program in the country. Now, we went undefeated my senior year. And my senior year, you have figured it out. Senior year, we had 8 players on our team made it to the NFL from the high school. Now, think about this now. You know, you and I have this battle every time.
This is why I tell everybody to fact check stuff. We start talking like this. It's kind of crazy.
We had 8 players to make it to the NFL from our team. 8 NFL. And I was the shortest person on the D-line. But every year they would go from this other school like Northwestern, Central, Jackson, and recruit players to replace me. Because you had Joe Johnson next to me. Joe was like 6'6", 260 in high school. Mm-hmm. Calvin Bell, 6'5", 240. You had the big towers around me. And I was like 5'8", 205.
So just to clarify, 5'8" is your listed height.
No, at that time I grew like an inch and a half since then. 5'9" to be 100% exact. So you figure my whole thought process was getting that jacket so I can get the girls. So I got to college, and one of the things I realized is like you're talking about playing for high school for 4 years, 4 year starter, and every year they would post my job up. So I had to fight for that job every year just to get that jacket. And trust me, I got that jacket every year. But now one thing about it is through that whole 4-year experience, I went from at one point, mommy started getting really ill. So she wasn't giving uncle the amount of money that he needed to support us. Me and Georgie went back home early. So Georgie couldn't deal with it. Georgie was a true island boy. He didn't like this. So Ferg, your uncle, came up. And so me and Ferg was living with uncle at the time, and then things started getting really tight financially. So uncle pretty much put us out. He told mommy, hey, if you can't continue supporting them, I can't deal with them. And here's the fucked up part about this is she had a house, a duplex that she owned, that she had him managing to help bring extra money to make sure we were good. He stopped paying the rent, stopped paying the mortgage, and that shit got foreclosed on. So when the house got foreclosed on, he put us out. He called mommy and said, hey, you got to get these boys back to the Bahamas. Now, at that point, I had me a lot of girlfriends down that time.
I was just about to say that sound like your first priority. Are you trying to figure out
how to
keep the girls?
Yes, how to stay. I can't even keep the girls in the Bahamas. So I try to figure out how the fuck am I going to stay in this country? So I called Margaret. I called Judy. Judy just came over here. And I was like, shit, I got to find some place to stay. So I went and moved to 63rd Street and Biscayne Boulevard. And I was sleeping on my auntie's floor. I mean, a naked floor. And just in the front room. She had no carpet. It was just cold floor. And I did that for like almost a half a year to go into Edison's. I said, I'm not going back. So Ferg went back. Georgie went back. I stayed over there. I started bouncing from Auntie Mari, Judy, Renee, and I would just go to from relative house because I'm not going back. Because I got to stay with these in the United States. Because I knew going back to the Bahamas was not the answer. So
Why wasn't that the answer?
I didn't see opportunities in the Bahamas because you figure I wanted to either play football or I wanted to be a corporate attorney, a corporate lawyer, something like this. And I didn't see the path to success. I didn't see that over there. You know what I'm saying? But when I got here, I was like, whoa, this is the land of opportunities. Babylon. This is the land of opportunities. Why the fuck am I going to go back over there when I'm here? So I got to try to figure this shit out right here. And plus, you got to figure, when I was back home, I was just above average. Over here, I'm a genius. So where do you want to go? This is gravy over here. Why the fuck would I go back over there? So I did everything. So I would go back home every summer, Christmas, and stuff like that. But I had to come back over here and shit like that. So my whole thought process was, how do I stay here? I got good grades. I played really good football. I had a lot of sacks too. Remember that? So I played good football. I got a scholarship. And I went to Wisconsin my first year. Wisconsin, I played ball in Wisconsin.
What school did you go to? We need the name of the school. I only like to through that state out there.
Mount Scenario College, Wisconsin. Played football over there. And I transferred to Jacksonville State.
Okay.
Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Now they number one. They are a D1 school now. At that point, it was not a D1. Not a D1. So I went to Jacksonville State. I got in a little trouble. I think, again, here it goes back with finances again. I got to college. Mommy didn't have the money to really support me being in college. You got 8 kids at home.
That's a lot.
8 kids. And Ferg used to actually work. Ferg got into gangs. You know, he started getting like gang life and all that. So Ferg used to literally work and send money to support me while I was in school. Then at that point in time, Auntie Nonon, she was getting a little to herself, a little jealous, and she's like, hold up, if Kylie can go to school and go to college, I want to go to college too. So Mommy sent her to Jamaica to college. So you have me in the United States to college, her in Jamaica, and Mommy still kind of sick, and we just trying to, you have 2 college kids right now trying to make it through this whole process. And you know me, I ain't coming back home. So now you got me in Wisconsin. That's another thing. I ain't coming back home. So coming back, so I did the Wisconsin thing.
There's a lot of snow out there, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of snow. Snow and the women, why both? White women. But so I transferred 1 year playing ball up there. What I didn't like was a lot of the racism. Coming from Miami, going straight to Wisconsin.
It's a whole different world.
You know, you had like 34 black kids on campus. 19 was from Miami. You know what I'm saying? Was it no. Yeah, between Miami and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Other than that, you had like 10,000 students, 10 to 15,000 students on campus, and 19 or 30 blacks.
What other options did you have for school-wise before you chose to go up there to Wisconsin?
I had Liberty College down in, Liberty is not too far from Hardgrave.
Yeah.
I had Liberty. I could went to Florida A&M, but at that time, Mount Scenario was taking a lot of kids from Edison, and you had like six players from Edison from years past that went to Mount Scenario. So I just went over there and was like, okay, good, got a scholarship, and they gave me academics and athletic scholarship to make up the whole tuition for life. You know what I'm saying? part academic, part athletic.
Hold on. So you ain't get no full ride at
No,
Papa Chula School of Wisconsin.
no. Never had a full ride.
And you said, cause let me go back, because I just want to make sure I clarify this. On that team of Edison, you had 8 NFL players.
Yeah.
So when you looked at your ranking on that team, where do you think you was at, top or bottom, if you don't mind me asking? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, far as when you say ranking, what do you mean?
Like product wise, like who was producing on that team?
Oh, I was one of the top producers on defense.
So what you think held you back? Your height?
My height. I was short. I was for my position. You think I was probably the, if you look at the defensive line, I was probably the second best defensive lineman we had on the team. We had Jerome Jackson. He was a monster. And then you had me. And then you had Bell, Joe, and all that stuff. I was a dog.
What about Big Black?
Black is on the bench. He was on the bench. 6'7", 315 pounds behind me. Now think about this. In high school, he was 6'7", 315. I was 5'9", 205. And he was on the bench. The dude played next to me, Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson was 6'3", 265, 270. And I was on that nose. And I was a dog. Straight dog. Shit, I was that guy. So you figure, and so you go to, I transferred, when I went to Wisconsin, and I would start all the home games. No, I would start all the away games. And the home games, they would have this white boy start ahead of me. And I'm like, fuck, I'm a little confused now. I can start the away games, but why can't I start the home games?
Sound like your first experience of politics in the game.
So you know what I did? I said, fuck it. I ain't playing. So I set out a whole week of practice. So they sent all the coaches, the committee come to my room. Fuck y'all, I ain't playing. I ain't with this shit. So finally the coach got to his senses, brought me back on the team, and started playing me a little more at home. And I was like, after that year, I was like, man, fuck this, I'm out of here. So I transferred to Jacksonville State. So I went to Jacksonville State, which is in Alabama.
Is that HBCU?
No, Jacksonville State was a Division II. They played Troy, Alabama State. They played the HBSU, but it was a white school.
Okay.
So it played like Appalachian State, one of those. It wasn't a D1, it was a D2 school. So I transferred over there. They gave me a partial scholarship. So I went over there and I played up there for like 2.5 years. And at that point, Mommy got sick. And I had a friend of mine who was up there from Miami, Carroll City. And he started playing football. And he came out on a football scholarship, and Reggie, and he was one of the first person to introduce me to dope. So, he stopped playing football and started slinging dope. And that was my first introduction to dope. And so I was like, I used to get me a couple of dollars from Mommy. When Mommy sent me the money, or Ferg sent me a couple of dollars, or $200, $300, $400, $500, I would get the shit to him and let him flip it. And he would give me back money, and we living life. Life was pretty good. So I played ball for like a year and a half. Reggie doing his thing. Life was great. I was the man, And so that was cool for a while. Then I can recall when Reggie started doing dope. He got hooked on this shit.
Got hooked on his own supply, sound like.
He got hooked on his own supply, and I remember what was weird about it is I was there the night he got hooked on his own supply. When he first started doing this shit, then Reggie, he was the plug. Now the plug is on this shit, and we have responsibilities in Miami to people who are sending the shit to us. So I had to really step up and take over the whole operation. So that's when I started doing my thing and playing football, doing this shit. Then I got arrested on some bullshit. So that's when I first got arrested, and I went back home. I had to deal with all that bullshit. Got kicked out off of campus, and I had to come back and live off of campus and finish off. They kicked me off the football team. So that's when I stopped playing football. So that's the year in '89. I got kicked off the football team. I finished off the year, and that's when I started running back and forth from the islands. That's when I met your mother. I met your mother in 89, something like that, 89? Yeah.
So when you first got in trouble, did they send you back to the islands immediately, or how did that work out?
I went. I didn't, I didn't wait for them. I never wait for them. I just went back to the islands myself and shit and say, fuck it. And so at that point, I started, I met your mom, and that's when I had, I was in the streets at that point, full blast on the street. And I met your mom. She got pregnant with you. And when she got pregnant, I'm in the streets, back and forth and all this stuff. And I was like, hey, fuck it. We're going to get married. Because, that's what I knew. She pregnant. She's young. She moved in with me. And we got married. And then you came about. And when you came about, it was like, it really changed my whole perspective on life in the sense that before you, it was, hey, let's run the streets. I would come here, make a couple $1,000s, go back to the Bahamas, back and forth, just make money, do whatever the shit may be. And when you came about, it was like, fuck, I can't end up being in jail and shit. And I got a son here. So that's when I stopped doing that bullshit, and I got me a job at Henry Lee, working offloading trucks with Llewellyn. Llewellyn got me a job offloading trucks. And I started offloading trucks, and I'm like, okay, I'm smarter than most of the motherfuckers around here. So
there you go.
You know me.
There you go.
You know me. I'm gonna analyze the whole situation. It's like, okay, why the fuck am I offloading trucks and shit? And I'm smarter than this motherfucker, smarter than this motherfucker. So I'm gonna learn how to drive the forklift. I learned how to drive the forklift, and I ain't offloading trucks when I'm driving the forklift. Then I start driving forklift. I'm like, okay, this motherfucker don't know what he's doing as supervisor. You know what I'm saying? So I got his job. You know what I'm saying? And I just started elevating through that logistics part of the whole business. And I went to Henry Lee. I can remember when I think one of the biggest thing with you, was when me and your mother, she moved to Miami with me, with you, when you were born. You were born down in Miami, down when we were living in North Miami. And that was, at that time, I said, you know what? I can't keep selling dope no more. I got to tighten up, I started going back to school. Went back to college. I started paying for her to go to college also. So I was paying for my college, paying for her college, working on the second shift. Because my whole thought process was I got to be here for you. And then she was young, I was young, and things just didn't work out the way we planned it to work out. You know what I'm saying? So when she left with you, I think you were 2 years old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when she left, came back up to Mims. So literally, I would spend weekends back and forth from Miami to Mims, just making sure you were good. And I think the key, I used to remember coming down and bring you. I don't know. Do you remember you coming to the warehouse? How was that? How was that memory to you?
You got to think, y'all had a lot of action early on in my childhood. It was like Gone in 60 Seconds type of movie. So a lot of the memories outweigh some of the other memories. But I do have some type of memory of the warehouses and messing on the forklifts.
Yeah, I used to remember, I used to come bring you down to the forklift and understanding and just showing you. I wanted to make sure. One of the key things for me was being a father. It was, and something you and I always discuss. I didn't have a father there to say, hey, this is what you need to do at this age. This is what you need to do at this age. This is how you react to this. I had me a wife. I had me newborn. Then my wife left me. I'm in Miami. And it was like, so what the fuck am I going to do? But I know the key thing when I understood was like, I make sure that the lights are always on. Groceries inside the refrigerator. And make sure that she's protected. And that's one thing you and I, we joke about this a lot. And it's like, for being a man, the thing that I know of being a man is making sure that the lights are on. I keep telling you that as a man, you got to make sure the lights are always on. Food is always inside the house. No motherfucker can come in and kick that door in. You got to protect your wife and your kids. So if you can get those three fundamentals down, that's what I knew right there. The rest of the shit, the flowers, and all, even right now to the day, I don't buy gifts. I don't celebrate shit. It is like, I am that black and white dude right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What's your experience with that?
I mean, your lifestyle's definitely different. I appreciate what you taught me, but on the opposite side, I think one of the biggest things I noticed, until you have kids, your perspective's a little screwed, essentially. So you think you know more than what you know. But when you have kids, I think it shows just the underlying truth of the situation that, we don't have no blueprint. So a lot of stuff we're experiencing is from somebody else's survival point of view. Or are you going through trying to identify who you are in the midst of that? Mm-hmm. So a lot of stuff we see in the making of somebody. You don't get to see the fine cut in the movie after all the edits and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
You know what I've always wanted?
Go ahead.
I've always wanted to sit back with a chick or a wife, whatever the case may be, and plan a baby. Yeah. Hey, honey, you're ovulating. What the fuck that word? They're ovulating. You know what I'm saying? Let's plan this. Let's plan that. It's like all three of my kids is like, I'm pregnant. It's like
pop-up shops.
It's a pop-up shop. What the fuck? I'm pregnant. It's like, okay, how do you respond to that? You know what I'm saying? And so my thing what's amazing with you is I sit back and I'm looking at some of the things that you're doing with your son, E3, and I sit back and I say, damn, I never did that. Or I should have done that. And it gives me a good perspective on, that is nice. So I've always sat down, and I've never sat down and talked to you about it, but I sit back and watch you from afar, and it's like, damn, he's doing a good job. You know what I'm saying? So from right now, I say you're doing one hell of a job raising that boy. You know what I'm saying? And I am so proud of you and Vaughn for what you guys are doing with him, because I can see something as simple as fucking T-ball. You know what I'm saying? I've never done T-ball in my life, and I have 3 kids. I've never done T-ball, and I can sit back and this is my first experience with T-ball.
Yeah.
And I can see the you and E. What's the motto? What's the motto? What's the word of the day? Or what's the
motto for the day?
What's the motto? What's the motto for the day?
Yeah, be better than yesterday.
And stuff like that. And I see the little different things that you do, and I'm like, shit, I never did that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, wow. And I sit back and look back and like, wow, this is very impressive. But I can tell you right now, what with me was like, my only thing was when your mother left, it was making sure that you were taking your finances, you were taken care of. All your clothes, anything you need. I was making sure that she was not without. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I started moving around from state to state, and 14 different states. But I knew it was like as I moved from different states, my salary got more. I would bring you up wherever I'm at, bring you up. And I was just focusing on getting that money so I can provide.
Mm-hmm. No, I think the biggest thing is when I look at fatherhood, right? I think I experienced so much stuff at such an early age that I can look outside of myself and look at what can I add to a situation. Like I say all the time, I'm not here to lead my son. I'm here to guide him. And so I enjoy what he shows me, what he interested in, what he likes to do. And I think I had a good example, you know what I mean? Like I got to be able to be a part of both worlds with having a single mother and having a single father, and an interchange between two people. So I could pick off what I like from over here or pick off what I like from over there and incorporate it in my child. And the biggest blessing I think God gave me, which most people look at like a crazy situation, is having my daughter first, an unplanned situation. So it gave me the opportunity to see something totally different. And my next time around, preparing for a situation, to be able to put that love into a situation. Almost like cooking. You can tell the difference when somebody put love in their food and when you get somebody trying to just make some food for some money. And that's how I look at it with the child. It's just like I'm trying to put the love into him every day. It's not about what he does, it's about who he is, you know what I mean? I think it's the biggest thing. And I think sometimes as people, we get so caught in what our kid is doing, we don't realize the character is more a person than the activity. We put more importance to the activity right nowadays.
I think also when I look back at those times when you start talking about how this whole thing started, and I look back and it's like I can recall the first couple of years that your mother, when she took you and moved back away from me, I spent like 2 or 3 years just trying to reconcile, trying to get her back. And that my whole focus is trying to get you guys back, getting you back in the house. And it was like, my mother told me one day, she's like, slow your ass down. She's like, why don't you focus on yourself? And I think a lot of guys out here are doing that, where they get lost in the relationship or lost in this and lost in that, and they're not focusing on themselves. Mommy told me, she's like, focus on your shit. Because what's going to happen is you spend all this money with lawyers trying to get her back, running around going crazy. And then she's going to get to the point where she's going to say, hey, look here. I mean, you're going to get to the point where, hey, hold up. You can get to the point where it's like, hold up, I need you. Or you, Dad, I'm ready to come home. And if I spend all of my resources and money trying to get you, and then you call me and say, Dad, I need you, and I don't have nothing to give you because I spent all of my time chasing around this bullshit right here. And you made that call. He's like, that call came when you was in the sixth. How old were you?
In like the 7th grade or 6th grade, maybe.
Yeah, 6th grade when you was like,
7th grade.
Hey, Dad, I need you. And at that point right now, I'm living in Maryland at the time, making over $100,000 a year. I got a house, and I had a situation that I can bring you into. Your own home, my own home, your own room. And I was able to say, hey, embrace you and bring you into this house because I spent time building myself for those 11 years. How was that for you?
I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't talk about, a lot of men don't know how to love themselves. So when you say focus on yourself, you really can't focus on yourself if you don't know how to love yourself. I think that's where it's kind of like the part that's missing, to actually give men grace to figure out who they are and then embrace who you are. You know what I mean? We're told so much what we're not that when you're trying to figure out who you are, the first thing you think of something negative more than positive. And like you said, you didn't have no blueprint. I didn't have no blueprint. So we both in this world looking and searching, but no idea what we're doing at times. You know what I mean? I think that's the hard part for men to admit. It's like when you're going through the process, we always want to know that we got the answer, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes it may be a new situation. You know, sometimes it may be something that's out of our control. But we're not taught to show vulnerability in the midst of those storms. We're taught to hide or protect what we're going through in the midst of all that stuff.
So when you look back at the way you were raised, you saw some of us, you saw some of me, you saw some of you, and now you're raising E3. When you look back, what do you see? How does that? First of all, when you look at yourself, when you look back, give me some feedback on what was going through your mind, because at that point I really don't know I didn't know what was going through your mind.
I mean, you got to think I'm coming from a world of a single mother basically raising me at the time, you know, and then I'm coming into your world. So it's like you're trying to fit in, but you never like the main priority of situations, you know what I mean? It's almost like each world you're trying to make sure you don't cause too much ruckus. So it's different essentially. It's like, and I think most parents at that time used to say it, like you're heard, but you've seen, but you're not heard. You know what I mean? And so a lot of stuff you have questions about, you can't really ask those questions in the midst because everybody's in survival mode. But I thank God that I had a different perspective growing up. I can see the youth than you and Mom. I could see the situations and the trials and tribulations. So I could look outside of what I was feeling, more so what's going on, I think. And I just try my biggest thing, like from my experiences from my first situation to my second situation, just to listen more. To not just shut down, but to have the conversation, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I think the biggest line, sometimes if we don't have the answers, we shy away or we knock the person from that question. So I try to listen more and to give my honest critique, whether good or bad.
Now, how does that play with E on how you raise him, and what trajectory, what does that bring to you as far as you deal with him?
I think the biggest thing is instilling value inside of the person. So I think with him, it all starts with me, like the everyday thing, you getting up in the morning, your attitude, your discipline, the principles that you carry with you. So it's like certain stuff that y'all instilled in me, the yes ma'am, the no ma'ams, the carrying yourself, throwing away your trash behind yourself, being able to share with people, the little things like that I value more than anything. So when he goes out in the world, it's like his foundation is already set. And I'm not against learning something new. I think sometimes when we're adulting or we're teaching our kids, you know, we get stuck in our ways, and it's like I'm open to new information. I think sometimes that's the hardest thing for people to do in the midst of raising somebody.
Change.
Yeah, to get new information and say maybe I was wrong. You know, what I mean?
How was it coming from Florida to Maryland? How was that experience?
It was different, man. The South was way different. I think in the midst of the time, like the South was doing a good job of segregation in a sense of us not knowing that it was segregated, but going two different ways essentially. I used to remember in elementary school when we used to get out of school around like 2:30. The white kids would go to the left side and catch the bus, and we would walk on the right side. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So coming to Maryland, seeing people integrated and seeing people have more power and conversation and confidence in what they're doing was a culture shock at first.
Really?
Oh yeah, y'all was talking greasy. Yeah, y'all was talking greasy. It's like there's a lot of conversations. I was like, oh, okay, y'all active out here. You know what I mean? Like it was definitely more freedom in a sense. And it was just a whole different type of response to stuff. You know, mostly times you hear some disrespect or something in the South, it's you tone yourself down in a sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Up north, it was things that were getting addressed that I wasn't used to. So it was like, okay, it gave me like a different battery in a sense in your back.
And coming into that environment, from coming from mom down in here in Mims in Florida, then going into Walkersville into a all white, pretty much all white neighborhood, all white school. How was that whole situation there?
Man, it was like growing up in the South is almost like you have to grow up faster, right? Mm-hmm. You have to almost be a guardian and a kid at the same time, so that's a little different. Going to Walkersville, I was able to be a kid in a new world, essentially. So everything was like appealing and new to me and like just eye-opening, essentially, right? So even the first time, like I seen, I think, Cedrica Mama during a basketball game, she gave me some lotion, you know, because I'm the black kid on the court with no lotion on, you know what I mean? Like, this is how they see in the situation. So it's like certain stuff like that you don't see until after you experience, you know, but in the midst of the moments, I'm just living. Like I couldn't think past tomorrow, to be honest.
Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. So when you sit back, I mean, I think that was the greatest experience for me, and that whole experience coming from Florida to Maryland. I remember I got that phone call, and I called my boy Jeff. You know, Jeff and ride or die with us from day one.
Shout out to
Jeff, Jeff, I need you to ride down in Florida to pick my son up. And we drove that trip to bring you back and forth. And I was so thankful that financially I had the resources to pull you up. I was making good money, had a nice house, and I was so thankful that I was able to pull you out of the situation and set you up. And I was like, okay, good. But at that time, I was like, shit. I was like, I got everybody in the house right now. Let's make this shit work right now. And that was probably one of the greatest days of my life when I actually drove down there and got you. I was like, wow. It was hurt. The hurtful part about that whole process was leaving Jeremy. You know what I'm saying?
That definitely was tough.
That was tough for me, and I never really addressed that. But that hurt me a lot to pull you away. But I knew I had to rescue you. But I knew at the same time I had a battle coming up with Veronica. But I knew at that time you were my closest to manhood. You know what I'm saying? If I had 3-4 kids, you were the closest to the finish line. So I had to make sure you were right. You know what I'm saying? And that was my whole thought process right there.
And I don't think a lot of people couldn't correlate right why it was so important for me to leave school early to make sure my brother wasn't in trouble. Mm-hmm. It's almost like having survival remorse or something. You're able to get out of a situation, but understand that everybody that you love is left in this situation. They're
Correct.
Still going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it was prominent, and one of the fourth thoughts in my mind as I was going through the process and blessed enough to play football and receive the scholarship and stuff, that I get out in time to make sure my brother doesn't become a product of the environment.
And I think we're gonna push off to, we're gonna get ready to close this segment off and roll over to the next segment, and we start talking about these raw subjects. When we start talking about the origin of where this whole process started, and me personally, some of my regrets, it's like I can recall when you were your first birthday. I think it was your first or second birthday. Your mother wanted to spend all this money on this big, elaborate birthday party for you. And
shout out Red.
Yeah, she wanted to throw this big old birthday party. And I'm like, at that point, we was living in an apartment complex, and I had like $8,000 or $9,000 stashed because I had to hide money from her because she wanted to buy clothes and buy shit and all that. So I had like $8,000 stash. I'm like, why the fuck we gonna spend money on a birthday party and we trying to buy a house? You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't correlate the two. And we got in this major fight. She wanted to have this birthday party, and she went through a birthday party, and you know me, I didn't even go to the party. And I sit back and I felt, when I look back, even up to this day, I have regrets now. I wasn't mature enough to understand that was important to her and it was important to you. But I took myself because I was so stubborn. We need to save money. We trying to buy a house. Fuck this shit. We trying to buy a house. And looking back, could we have stayed together? Probably not. But I did not check all the boxes. So when I look at the boxes, those are things that unchecked. You know what I'm saying? I miss T-ball with you. I miss being there for you when you between ages of 2 and 11. That's a big fucking gap. I tried my best to be there, but I missed a lot. You know what I'm saying? So that's my biggest regret through that whole process. And it still bothers me even to the day. And, and that's something that I still have to live with and work with.
That's deep. That's different too, right? I think that's why I come back to when I was talking about it the first time. Both of y'all was so young in the midst of trying to figure out who you are and trying to create the life at the same time. And it's like, unfortunately, something sacrifices in that situation. Either growth of the child that you're bearing or the identification of the person. And how do you thrive without no identification? It's like one of the hardest things to come to grips with because everybody's starting off on an uneven playing field. And so it's like one of them things that because I was able to experience both sides and to be able to not say miss you in a point, but it's like when I got around you, I wanted to be validated by you. You know what I mean? And so it's like maybe that's why I treat my son the way I treat him in a sense, like giving validation from the start, you know what I mean? Or being able to look outside myself for a lot of situations. Because there'd be times I'd be hot in the house also, but it always be times when my mind snaps back to like, what am I showing him in the midst of me being emotional or me having my moment?
And if you start talking about legacy, when you start talking, because what we doing, even this conversation that we're having, we are putting a blueprint that he's going to be able to sit back. Another family is going to be able to sit back and look at this and say, you know what, we are going through the same experience, or we getting ready to go through the experience. When I sit back at legacy shit that I can do wrong, I mean, I probably wouldn't change shit because I'm very happy with everything that occurred. I am happy for the experience. But if I was sitting back talking to another father, talking to you, and you and I have these deep conversations, I would say continue doing what you're doing. The conversations you're having with E, the hugs, the T-ball. Even when I sit back and I sit back and say, hey, make sure you take your wife out to dinner. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. I want to make sure you check every box. Don't leave any box unchecked. And I'm talking to anybody out there. It's like, check your boxes. If the situation changes or whatever, there's a separation, there's a division, make sure first and foremost, put that mask on first to protect yourself. And then reach out. Sometimes we get so caught up in the moment, this, that. No, take care of self first. Once you take care of self, then reach back. Because my whole thought process in life is, you have to live a better life than I did. Nadia, Kali, Jeremy have to live a better life than I. As a parent, as a father, if you don't live a better life than me, I fail as a man. When you look at your legacy, what do you see?
I think what I'm trying to produce for my legacy, because I look in the futuristic tense, I feel like my past is my past essentially, right? So he's not going to benefit off my passages or accolades. I look at it almost like I'm not trying to create a blueprint for you. I'm trying to create a barriers for you to create your own blueprint. I want to give you the principles and the values for you to be able to create anything, because I think sometimes we get so caught in trying to lead somebody to the water instead of just making sure that their cup's filled already. It's not about the end of the journey. It's about the process through the journey. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm teaching right now. It's like, For my legacy, I want to instill the person. I want to make sure when people leave, my son is like, he's a great person. He has great manners. He's a great individual. They love seeing him being around. The energy is affection. You know what I mean? It's like contagious, essentially. I think that's what people remember. When it's all said and done, you can do 1,000 different things, but it's about the memories and moments people have with you that they talk about.
That makes sense. Makes sense. And I think just in closing, I mean, anybody that's watching this podcast or watching this or hearing this, I can tell you one thing. I've had a lot of fucking experiences in life, and there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm very comfortable with all those experiences. I've embraced all. One thing, but life is going to give you changes. It's going to throw some shit at you. You just got to understand that this too shall pass. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
Nothing stays the fucking same.
I like that.
It's going to change. What you got to have to be able to do. Remember we talked about the buffalo? What did buffalo do?
Shit, run to the storm.
Run to the storm. Face that motherfucker head up and keep moving. The key is to life, keep moving. Don't fucking stand still. I don't give a fuck what it is. Keep moving. Because the minute you move, you change your trajectory, you change an opportunity. But you stand still, you're just taking fucking blows.
No, that's very true. I think the biggest thing I want to say to people out there is have grace for yourself during the midst of your journey. And our scars become the marks that push us to greatness. So don't get too down about the lesson that you learn in life, more so than use them to produce what's next.
That's deep. That's deep. Yeah. So I think this has been a great first episode, and I just want you and the audience to know that this is a conversation that I've been wanting to have with you forever and a day. I know we have it every time we get together. We have these conversations, but I think the greatest thing for us to do right now is I want to document the conversations and hopefully help somebody else out there that's getting ready to go through this experience or going through this experience. Because there's a lot of fucking lessons to learn between you and I and what we got going on right here.
Man, a lot of highs and a lot of lows.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing is tell people keep going. I think introducing people to the vulnerability, to the openness, to the great conversations, to the low conversations, and be able to admit that we're trying to keep growing is everything.
And another thing is like not knowing, I know I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect.
I'm about to say, who is?
I'm far from perfect. But I know I go into every situation, I want the best. I go in with good intentions. Maybe sometimes I go in with too much good intentions. But I just want you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. You've been, you me. I always want you to be a better version of me. And so that's want you to know that if I hadn't tell you this, I do love the hell out of you.
I love you too, man. I definitely appreciate that. And shit, it's not easy walking around with the name Ego, so you definitely gave me a challenge.
All right, look forward to seeing you guys next week on the next episode of Ego versus Ego. And this is our first episode. Let's do this shit.